Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Tesla Roadster version of our podcast. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome everybody.
Yeah, the image behind us is generated by AI, and what I asked for was a red Tesla Roadster on an alignment rack in a shop, and it did a pretty good job. It tends to miss the charge port door. Do you guys see that there? There's something round there. Maybe that is there.
No, I think the
It's
charge
not.
port door is
Okay.
missing. It tends to miss that. It looks okay. It
Yeah.
doesn't look too bad. It's kind of an interesting rack, the two-post alignment rack.
Yeah, and then there's a tire on a rack behind it by itself. But anyway,
Yes,
it's
right back
AI.
there.
It doesn't really, it's supposed to be intelligent, but we're finding that in many ways it is, but in some cases it isn't, and it's going to continue to improve.
It will. It will. And I tell you what, for what it does and how long it takes, it's far better than any alternative.
True. And the reason we chose this, by the way, is because today's session is going to be about Roadster alignment. We're going to have our shop manager, Mike Manning, join us here in 15 minutes. He's going to talk about our new alignment rack and some of the findings that he's been discovering working on the Tesla Roadster alignment systems, and it should be informative. So in the meantime, though, we'll cover a few topics. I've got an image here I'm going to pop up. This is from one of our customers up in the Bay Area. This has been 1158, and a very proud owner of a, looks like sterling silver, VIN 1158. And what he says is, here are pics of my car. She's doing great on a 15-year-old battery. For those of you that have been watching our podcasts, we talk often about the original expectation of what these cylindrical multi-cell battery packs were supposed to, the lifespan, and 10 years was projected. There are Roadsters that are 16 years old that are going strong. And what I mean by strong is we've got some most recently that are charging over 180 miles in standard mode. Now, granted, these are cars that have never been badly abused, bricked, and left without charge, and that have needed repairs as a result. But we some people now are projecting that the lifespan of this type of battery system could be 20 years. So that would be wonderful if that's the case.
Well, it seems totally reasonable. These cars are no less than 13 years old because 2011 was when the very last of them were produced.
Mm-hmm. And there was another shot of his sterling silver Roadster up in the Bay Area. And many of these owners are grateful that this battery system is exceeding the life expectancy. Again, reinforcing how well these cars are aging. And it's also a testament to how well the owners typically take care of their cars. They are usually garage stored. There are very few daily drivers left these days.
Mhm.
And we find that most customers now, when they require service of some type, are interested in resolving all the deferred maintenance, which brings it up to, baseline level again. So good job, owners. We're proud of you. All right. Rid of this image. So we've got another email from Rafael DeMestre. Rafael is the pioneer that went around the world with the Tesla Roadster in 2012. And this is VIN number 507. It's a twilight blue. It came through the United States last year. It ended up at our shop. It was bricked after a museum visit in Munich, Germany. Been bricked for 3 years. And we ended up not only taking care of a number of deferred maintenance items, but also some water or weatherproofing on his charge port door, for example. And we sent it to Tesla locally here in Tempe, Arizona for a 3.0 battery swap.
That's right.
So it's ready to go. And in 2012, he went around the world with this Roadster in 127 days. And remember, 2012, there weren't ubiquitous charging stations everywhere. He ended up getting very creative. He carried a number of adapters, connectors, and AC cables in his trunk. And he said basically, whenever he saw any power lines, he knew there was power available somewhere, and he would follow that path to either a restaurant, a commercial building, or sometimes even a home and get a charge to continue on his travels.
I remember him saying uh, how nice everybody was. He
Yes.
especially liked going to restaurants because he could go there, have dinner, stay late, and then the restaurant shuts down and is not using electricity at all over the course of the night when he needs to charge the car.
Right. And they usually had higher voltages available, like 208 or 240 or 230, because of the heavy demands on cook surfaces and hot water heaters and such. So
Yes.
he didn't have a hard time. And he developed a lot of electrical skills because oftentimes he'd have to open up a circuit breaker panel and figure out where to connect his charge cables. But anyway, he ended up making his way from Barcelona westward, and in 127 days went around the world. And the reason for doing this, you may be wondering, Rafael is definitely into sustainable energy. He even plants trees in some places that he goes. But he said the end purpose of this race was to convince people in the nations to change to electric cars. And this was in 2012, mind you. Well, in 2023, they did it again. And this time, he was taking a Model S along with a family with 3 children in a Model 3. And they went around the world. They ended up stopping at our service center.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a pleasure meeting them and watching them on their travels. Now, he sent me an email and he says, thank you, Pete. We arrived in Barcelona safe and sound. Now, this is the second journey with the Model S, the family, and the Model 3. And I am now back in Bucharest having your decals in my hand. What he's talking about is we have been sending out these free decals for the 2.0 Roadsters, the ones with a push button, because they wear out. And he needed some, and he was going to apply them. He says, regretfully or lucky me, the Model S battery, now after 650,000 kilometers, stopped working just in front of my apartment. Talk about luck, right?
That is something else.
He says that the investigation resulted that a cable had come loose. It will be soldered next week. And then I will drive to Ukraine to bring friends some USB charge lights. At Christmas, he's going to fly to Frankfurt to pick up his Roadster VIN 507, put the decals on, and then drive to my mother's in Krefeld to celebrate her 89th Christmas. Congratulations. Next 80E days, and by the way, those of you interested, I've got an image up here, Jesse. Yeah, this is the website. He has a newsletter feature now where you can apply or subscribe. It's free. And he will send you information about the travels. But he says the next 80E days is planned to take part in 2030 with 12 nights fighting against the pollution. Every team will be a famous knight of the round table and will get a coat of arms. He's going to be Team Zero, King Arthur, and he's inviting all nations to join. So there you have it. He says 4-year preparation should be enough to check if we can cross the Bering Straits by then. And you had mentioned that might be difficult because, I don't know, landmass issues, and of course there's water in between.
It's infrastructure issues as much as anything. Up in Alaska, the Bering Strait, of course, if they could do it, would be a wonderful thing because it's only about 30 or 40 miles from the mainland North America to the mainland Asia across the strait. And if you cross it in the wintertime and we're able to cross the sea ice, it is feasible that it could be driven with a car. The challenge is the highway system in Alaska does not go anywhere near the northwestern coast. He would have to drive probably somewhere around 600 or 700 miles through the Alaska tundra because there are no roads. The city of Nome, Alaska is possibly the community that's closest to that area. It's probably 100 or 200 miles south of where he would need to cross, but Nome is only accessible by airplane.
I see. So it sounds like we need to have a chat with him about this goal.
It's possible, yes.
Yeah. So got another image to pop up here. This is a Bring a Trailer Roadster that closed 11/29, and it is a 3,600 mile 2008 Thunder Gray Roadster, VIN 289, by the way. It reached $61,551, and fortunately, there was a reserve that was able to be set on this, and it did not actually close. Um, Again, it was a fully functioning roadster, low mileage, and this was a new low that we have seen, at least within the last couple, 3 years. However, within the same week, another functioning roadster sold in Nebraska for $96,000. And we had one of our roadster matchmaking site roadsters sell a couple of months ago for $110,000. So the speculation that, and then a recent Bring a Trailer auction again, which is actually live right now, opened at $80,000. So we're hoping, those of us that are optimistic, that the trend may be reversing and that the $61,000 auction is the low point at this time. Those of you interested in Roadsters, by the way, buying them, we have 2 additional ones out on the Roadster matchmaking site. I have pictures of it here for you, and 2 new ones and 1 existing one. It looks like I do not have that image.
Lower right, scroll down, lower right corner or upper right corner, VIN 263.
Actually, no, there were 2 of them stacked together.
Oh, okay.
And there's a third one, by the way, that will be live for sale within the next 24 to 48 hours as well. And then finally, we have the Brick Roadster, which a lot of interest on this one. Here's the image, Jesse.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah. This is VIN number 263. It is a brick roadster that is currently available, that started off at $40,000. It is now down to $35,000. The owners have repriced it. And my question to them was, anyone buying a brick roadster should be concerned about what caused it to brick. And the fundamental reason is, if it was a neglect type bricking where the car was running fine, but it just didn't get charged, well, then all you have to replace is the battery.
Right.
If, however, you have a technical issue, which is often the case, that prevents it from charging, well, now you have a repair in a power electronics module or somewhere else in the car. Mm-hmm. So that compounds the expense involved in bringing a brick roadster back to life. So I checked with this seller, and here's what she replied. She says, let them know that the battery was working. She drove the car after Dad's stroke, and then it sat unused or charged for a year. And this is an estate sale, basically. The original owner was a neurosurgeon in San Diego, and the family is now selling the car.
So this is a case then of the former. They simply didn't drive it or charge it for a year, and then when somebody thought to drive it or try to charge it, they couldn't because it had already bricked.
Right. Which is a story often told. When the original owner passes, there are other priorities at that point in time, family issues and probate issues. And it's sadly, it is not an uncommon thing to then have a roadster die along with the owner and needs a new battery pack.
Yeah, definitely does. We have a few comments and questions. Instagram, Mark Calving Nuts, talking about the silver Tesla that we opened with. Mm-hmm. He says it's the finest looking Tesla ever. I'm in full agreement. I get this all the time when people come through Gruber Motor Company. Well, these aren't the Teslas that I'm used to seeing on the road. And I said, forget all of those on the road. Yeah.
This is not a 4-door grocery getter sedan. This is a 2-seater convertible sports car. And it was designed by Lotus, actually, and thankfully they kept the Lotus DNA in the styling.
Yes.
So this is your sexiest roadster currently. Until that second-generation roadster comes out, we're going to, make the claim that the original OG Tesla Roadster is the most exciting Tesla.
Absolutely. On TikTok, Brendan Davis says, any tips for someone who is trying to start an EV repair business? Maybe where to get the right employees, for example.
Lot to unpack there. When we started, we weren't just working on Tesla Roadsters. We were taking any kind of EV, and the simplest one was the Toyota Prius. A Toyota Prius battery pack is about $6,000 to an owner for oftentimes a car that's worth that or less. So getting it repaired was very important.
Hmm.
And you can literally take these pouch batteries out of other donor cars, collision damage cars, and do a repair on Tesla, or I'm sorry, on the Toyota Priuses. We did some Ford Fusions. We did a Kia. We did a smart car at one point in time, the EV2 smart car. The best way to do it is OJT. Unfortunately, there are no university courses you can take today that will give you a broad general knowledge of how to fix EVs. There are some, the START program, for example, that Tesla has.
Right.
It's kind of spotty though, and I think there's a university in the Midwest somewhere that has some short courses for this. But yeah, so to start a repair business, hang a shingle and learn how to do the simple repairs like a Prius. Where to get the right employees? Boy, that's a loaded question because there's such a shortage of people that know anything about EVs.
Well, and we've had really good luck with a mix of employees. A couple of employees that are electrical engineers, have electronics engineering experience. We have an employee that at one point was a member of the Apple Genius Bar.
Mhm.
He knows software and has a mechanical bent as well. That was very important. We have a couple people in our shop who were mechanics, but have shown a technical aptitude. So while they do a lot of the wrenching work, they're beginning to understand and be able to work with the software. It takes kind of a blend of all those people to really be successful. You can't just go out and hire the cheapest mechanics.
Right. Good point. So, oh, we've got a bunch of people chiming in. All right, Brendan Davis, we did that. Giselle is joining us from Florida. Giselle Toner, thank you for your expertise and help when we need it. You're more than welcome, Giselle. YouTube Environmental Canadian. Hello from the deep snow in Toronto, Canada. Love your live shows, gentlemen. Peace. Calvin. I lived on the south side of Lake Ontario, by the way. I know exactly what that snow is like. The lake effect stuff that used to just pile up.
Well, and these guys are getting pounded this year too.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law has a place out in Carthage, over by Watertown on the east end of Lake Ontario.
Oh, Watertown, the worst. Yes.
Last week they had 8 feet. This week they're getting another 4.
All that snow used to just, with the westerly wind, used to dump right onto Watertown, and they always had the highest, rate of snow accumulation.
They're having a big one this year.
YouTube, Mustafa El Gamal says, according to car research firm Recurrent, EV batteries will soon be cheaper to replace than gas engines by 2030. This is the biggest hurdle when buying used EVs.
We were talking about that in our first podcast, Mustafa, and you're right. I think Recurrent is on point. Lithium continues to go down, and the price of batteries has gone down by 97% in the last 30 years. And with raw material prices only half of what they were 12 months ago, they're continuing to drop.
Right. So Instagram, Priyan Kovra from India. We have courses, he says, in India for EV. And we actually have a video that we released that is now done in Urdu, I believe, or is it Hindi, Jesse? I forget the language now.
It's Hindi.
Hindi, okay. If you're interested in our conversion of a Tesla Model S to a tiny home, that's the one that we launched with the Indian language. And what you're going to see is me fluently speaking Hindi, even though I don't, but it was software. It was 11 Labs, AI. And it is so convincing. My wife thought I've been withholding all these years that I am trilingual instead of bilingual. All right. I had a comment here from a Roadster owner that bought a Roadster on Bring a Trailer. And a couple of weeks later, someone took the pictures off of Bring a Trailer and offered his Roadster for sale for $28,000 on eBay. And we were all confused and thought, well, why did this customer buy it and then sell it that quickly at half the price?
Right.
Well, it turns out, and one of our customers chimed in, Dave, he said, this is becoming a common problem on both Bring a Trailer and Bids and Cars. What the scammers do is they reach out to the backup bidders saying that the car didn't sell and then agree on a price, and a scammer asks for a deposit to complete the sale. So again, caveat emptor, buyer beware. This is becoming more of a common practice, it appears. And if it looks too good to be true, it is.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a long one. Do you want to unpack that?
I will. Amir Hossein Naji on Indeed is saying, thank you for sharing your insights on power electronics and the EV industry. It's both inspiring and informative. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in electrical engineering, specializing in power electronics, with a focus on fast EV charging systems for my final project. Your expertise in this field would be incredibly valuable to me. If you have a moment, I'd love to hear your thoughts or advice on designing efficient and reliable EV fast chargers, especially regarding power density, thermal management, or grid integration challenges. Any guidance means a lot, and want to know more about PhD positions in this field in the U.S.
Fascinating. And where is Amir? In what country? Doesn't say here.
It doesn't
does
say here.
Okay. All right. Well, if you have questions, Amir, you can email, or we can start communication on ev@gruber.com, and we'll try to help in any way that we can.
Yeah, there's him wanting to hear our thoughts. He's going a little more into the engineering side than I, who am a finance guy, am comfortable with at this point, but we'd love to be able to talk to you more. And we may be able to find other resources that can also help.
Absolutely. So I have some additional pictures to pop up here before Mike joins us. This one is of Tesla Roadsters sitting outside in Owings Mills, Maryland. And we get these pictures from time to time from Roadster owners that go to the service center and then wander out and back. Tesla isn't too keen on letting people go into their storage areas like this, but what you're seeing here is Roadsters that have been taken apart, and these are typically buyback Roadsters. They don't buy collision damaged Roadsters, which is what they end up looking like after sitting outside a few years and
Sure.
having been picked apart. As disconcerting as this may look to the Roadster owner community, this is part of what is keeping our cars on the road. And sadly enough, by creating donor cars like this, it creates the parts that we need that are no longer in production, and it keeps other cars on the road.
It certainly does. And as time goes on, there are more and more of those parts that are becoming hard to find, impossible to find. Even things like windshields are starting to become more scarce than they used to be.
Mm-hmm. I've got another image here, Jesse, if we can bring that one up, and you can see the state of disrepair. It would be great if the service centers at Tesla had enough capacity and space to house cars like this inside, but the reality is they don't. They are overwhelmed servicing the sexy vehicles, and these iconic original Tesla cars oftentimes just sit out and back. If they have the foresight, they will typically take out the leather seats so that when things get wet, it doesn't destroy things. But as you can see, a pile of leaves here, and the cavities are oftentimes filled up. But this is what keeps our cars on the road, part of it. And it's, again, showing a strong commitment by Tesla to continue to support the original Roadster community. As we've often said, in the other businesses we're in, like Critical Power, the manufacturers have an end-of-life program, and they're not going to continue to support something past that lifespan, whether that's 7, 8 years or so. At that point, they simply tell you, we're going to stop parts, we're going to stop service contracts within a year, and your option is to upgrade to these particular units. And that's end of story. Now, it's advantageous for companies like us in the critical power business that are in the independent space because we now continue to support that older equipment.
Right.
We buy used UPSs. We either restore them, refurbish them, and put them back in play, or we part them out, which then gives us the ability to continue to keep the equipment running.
Mm-hmm.
But Tesla is not taking the position that most manufacturers would, which is it's end of life, upgrade to a Model 3, and we're not going to support your Roadster anymore. They're continuing to do so. So that's the good news.
Amir Hossein Najeh has told us he's from Iran.
Oh, Iran. Okay.
So thank you for joining us there.
Yes. Instagram, Yannick Hessen says, why are there only 6 people looking at this stream? Very high quality content on Instagram. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Yannick Hessen. What typically happens is not everybody has time during the middle of the day to watch a podcast like this.
Right.
And we see the traction really occur after the podcast has been aired. And oftentimes these things will get into the hundreds of views and sometimes even over 1,000.
Well, and we are streaming as well on multiple platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, of course, Instagram, like here, but we're on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not all of them. So there are more than 6 people watching live. But you're right. What is it? 90% of our
comes
viewership
after the show,
comes after the show.
Hey, social media guys, would you do me a favor and call extension 491 and see if we can get Mike? Mike is going to be joining us for the alignment portion of this podcast. So another image that I'm going to throw up here, there was a video that was released, and the title was, it's on YouTube, by the way, Restoring an Insanely Cheap Tesla Roadster to Make a Massive Profit. Well, this is clickbaity stuff, but it was a great video in that they showed some ways of cleaning a Roadster that had been somewhat abused or daily driven, let's say.
Okay.
Using dry ice pellets.
Really?
Yeah. And you would see them underneath on the suspension components, for example. Dry ice is unique in that, unlike very aggressive, abrasive sandblasting, it leaves certain surfaces intact, but it takes and removes grime, buildup, dirt, and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So that would be one reason to watch this, because it would definitely give you some additional ideas as to what you can do with your Tesla Roadster. The other thing they ended up doing was it had a visible carbon fiber hardtop, and which was badly yellowed. Well, in our world, we usually strip those, get rid of the UV affected yellowed clear coat, and restore it to pristine condition. It turns out they felt that was an unusual color, and they left it and polished it, basically. Well, we had some people that were chiming in, and this one is from Texas Eric Robertson, who has done his fair share of building carbon fiber for the Roadsters, actually, is very knowledgeable with carbon fiber. He says, the yellowing is from UV exposure. And for what I've seen, the clear coat used on the original exterior carbon parts can only take so much. In the worst cases, the UV gets through that layer and turns the epoxy resin yellow. At that point, you're best off getting a new part or skinning the original with a fresh layer of carbon fiber and epoxy. He's only done this once, he says, adding a layer, but he's recently removed the roll hoop cover. Well, he goes on and on. The way that we end up doing it is we just simply sand off, very carefully, of course, because you don't want to affect the weave,
Right.
the clear coat, and then the original yellowed resin. And by applying a new UV-resistant clear coat, you end up with a much better result. So this was quite a interesting video in that it gave us new detailing ideas. Let me throw up another image here.
While you're throwing up that image, that detailing ideas, I just have to say again, I saw an email earlier this week, and this is a shout out to the guys at Gruber Motors. A customer came to us and asked to make sure that we didn't invoice them for the detailing work that we had hired out on their Roadster.
Remember that.
And that's not detailing work. That's our guys doing their job exceptionally well.
It was pride in craftsmanship. And, one of the things that we do is we don't let the roadsters into the service center until they've reached a certain level of cleanliness. And it probably went through that as well.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, these roadsters get transported to us in open carriers. And if they're going through the East Coast, for example, lots of rain and snow and inclement weather, by the time they get here, they definitely need a bath. But yeah, that was quite a endorsement from an owner that recognized that we had gone the extra mile and cleaned that car for them.
Yes.
All right. We have a customer. Is that something that you can bring onto the screen? Um, he's up in the Bay Area and he's selling there's some pictures here. This is what I was trying to get to. These pictures here. If we put that out there.
Yeah, I'll get that.
So he's selling some additional items from his Tesla Roadster, and if you're interested, it's on the Tesla on a Facebook site called Tesla Roadster Owners Group, and you can private message him there. But he's got the original Roadster windscreen sunshade, like new, hardly used. He has the Tesla Roadster J1772 adapter, which he says is like new and hardly used. Now, this is not the Can Junior. This is the Tesla version, which is actually a short electrical cable with an SO cord that's about 2 feet long. But it converts J1772 to the Roadster proprietary plug. He has a MC240 charge cable, which is the 240 volt, thick black, almost the size of a garden hose charge cable. He says hardly used and tested, works great. And finally, he has the Roadster Sport Anodized Aluminum Owner's Manual. It has a few scratches and a few blemishes, but these are becoming collectible, it turns out. There's one that's been on eBay for $5,000, I believe.
Wow.
So he
That's
hasn't sold it
impressive.
yet, but yeah.
Okay, we're getting these on as we speak.
And he's going to ship all this from Alameda, California, by the way. So again, the Facebook Tesla Roadster Owners Group. And if you're an owner of a Roadster and you haven't subscribed to that or become a, we can, you can just sign up for that, and we'll make sure that you're part of that.
You can
Oh,
see
we got the
that
image
now.
now. Okay, thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Yeah, there we go. And there's some images of the things we described. The MC240 in the lower left-hand corner. And the thing in the upper right-hand corner, I don't think I've seen that sunshade, but that must have been an original Roadster issue item. All right, I have another image for you here, and this is one of our customers that is selling VIN number 730, I believe it is. Yes, 730, that is correct. And this is a 2.0 Roadster. Really cool color combination. This is the one that is up on Bring a Trailer currently. And again, one of the reasons that we think that the Roadster trend may be reversing, the valuation trend, this thing opened at $80,000. Remember the other Roadster that we showed after 7 days reached $61,000. Both are functioning Roadsters. So either somebody badly wanted this color combination, or the trend is beginning to reverse, or both, hopefully. This thing will end in 3 days. It's still sitting at $80,000. It has a really cool color combination. The seller's parents actually decided on this. The seats and the Tesla decal on the side, which we applied when the car was out here a few years ago, actually matches. And as I pointed out on Facebook, test driving this car after the repair, you can, each Roadster gets a certain amount of attention.
Sure.
I think the most attention I ever got was VIN number 100, which is a insane green, the only one in the United States. And this one was close to that in terms of getting attention. And it is available. So if you're interested in a Roadster, this one is also available along with all of the ones on our Roadster matchmaking site. All right. Do we have our guest for the alignment?
No, there's no answer.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to have to do then is defer that to next week's program and make that the alignment section. Our apologies. I'm not sure what happened, but I can throw a few pictures up here that will at least give us some idea of what this, what the alignment system is like. And here we go. We ended up purchasing the Hunter computerized alignment system, which is the large stand in the front, and then bought a bend pack lift, a 4-post lift, to go with that. There are, I'm going to do this with my mouse here. There are attachments that go on the wheels here. There's a ride height adjustment attachment here. And what we're finding is, I'm going to try to go forward here. There's another angle. There we go. The Roadsters definitely need suspension work done after this many years. And it's not just shocks. We've got bushings, we've got toe links, we've got rubber parts down below. And of course, alignment. Alignment can change as the years go by.
Sure.
You smack a curb here and there, you hit a pothole or whatever. And what we're finding is an interesting set of issues that the Roadsters have by being able to have something like this in-house and actually able to dial in some of the problems that the Roadsters are exposed to as they're aging. This is fully computerized. It's highly accurate. The wand that you see here has lights, LED lights and cameras that blink and flash. And the end result of all of this is being able to dial in the precise alignment and the precise measurements on the cars. And then we supply this when the car leaves for the customer to review. Again, we are going to resume this part of the discussion next week, and we apologize for not being able to do it in this show, and it looks like we've got some more comments coming in.
Yeah, we'll close out, I think, with a few of these comments. On Instagram, we have EV Smoke ATX, always showing love, EV love from Austin, Texas.
Thank you for joining us.
On YouTube, Mustafa Elgamel, and it says, and we need to press the like button.
And then YouTube, Pardon the Dank Show, says, cheers from Joshua Tree, California. We have a Roadster in right now from Palm Springs, actually. Nice area there. Instagram, Vivek Samani says, any plans to list your company? I'm going to invest. You know, we get asked that often, and or at times. The need for a IPO, initial public offer, is usually related to no longer being able to grow on cash flow. And many thanks to Mark and his team, our CFO, we have maintained a financial posture that allows us to continue to have reserves and grow by simply using cash flow. There will come a time when we will just exceed that capability. I'm thinking in the future that maybe when we get into robotics, where there's a hefty investment required. And at that point in time, an initial public offering makes sense. But in the meantime, we're enjoying the freedom that you end up getting as a, without being a publicly traded company.
And there is a lot of freedom.
There is. You know, one of the first things that jumps to mind is my wife worked for American Express for years, just retired earlier this year. When you have shareholders and investors, the companies oftentimes lose a part of their soul. And what I mean by that is I watched people getting laid off 6 months before their retirement, for example. In a company like ours, those things just don't happen. We take care of people. And if a sales rep, and we have many tenured people, by the way, some have been here a decade, 2, even 3. If their output begins to decline because of aging issues or whatever, in a company like ours, we allow that to happen as long as they represent us well and they're on a commission plus salary program. We can make adjustments to allow them to transition out of our company with dignity and grace. In corporations, that isn't the case. Oftentimes there are casualties. So that's part of what I like about being a sole proprietorship is that we can continue to take care of people, unlike having investors that are only watching the bottom line and making decisions based on that.
Correct.
So again, thank you for joining us. Every week is fun. We will see you in 2 weeks, and I'm Pete Gruber.